Hi again then guys, and so we've got another Gran Turismo 6 drag spec setup for you today, and this time it's for a slightly unlikely choice of drag car, the Ferrari 599. You don't see a huge amount of people using it as a drag model, and to be completely honest, it doesn't have the strongest of top-end performance. Low-end and mid-range though, it is extremely quick. Now, I've gone for racing soft tyres, but I know for drag racing especially, everyone has their own personal preference. For suspension, we've got the rear ride height on 70, the front on 140, springs on 875 and 625, the dampers on 4 all round, apart from the rear compression, which is on 1, anti-roll as high as possible, neutral camber and tow. We'll come back to the gearbox in just a second. For the diff, you want the lowest initial torque. You can go for the highest acceleration sensitivity, but you don't necessarily have to. And we've got the lowest braking. All the power upgrades, obviously, and we have got NOS fitted. And you want the full weight loss package. Now, as for the gearbox, we've got an auto setting of 249, and this does go through all of its gears. Now, for the individual gears, we've got 3.8, 2.3, 1650, 1250, 975 and 800, with a final drive of 3.3. I would recommend having traction control, as always, of course, turned off, and I will, as usual, be using an auto box. So if you do choose to use a manual, you will, of course, potentially, depending on your skill, be quicker. Now, as always, I like to put these drag tunes up against cars which they would typically come up against in actual online drag races. So in this case, we're putting it up against the Supra. Now, the Supra has pretty much every advantage. I believe the Supra is lighter, it's definitely more powerful, has a lot more torque. Both cars are using NOS, both are rear-wheel drive, of course, and let's see how they compare, basically. Now, off the line, the Supra isn't necessarily the best of drag cars anyway, but it does have that mid-range and top-end shove, which usually more than allows it to keep up. But as you can see, the 599 is extremely strong for low-end and mid-range performance, up to around 260-ish. Above 260 it does get a little bit bogged down, which is a real shame, because the 599 has the potential to be one of the best or one of the quickest Ferraris in the game. Now, as it happens, it is still one of the quickest Ferraris in the game, but it has so much more potential top end. It feels like they've really limited what it can do, kind of like the TVR Speed 12. Not quite as bad as that car though, which is a real shame, because this car should technically be able to cruise at probably around 280, 290 under its own power, but it doesn't. So, a real shame. However, for drag racing, as you saw, it's extremely good. Top end, of course, it doesn't stand a chance against something like a Supra over, say, 4,000 metres or more, but as you saw, up until around the 3,200 metre mark, it can beat the Supra, and 3,200 metres is nothing to be sniffed at. Now, as far as the acceleration times on this car, it hits 60 in 1.7 seconds, 100 in a very respectable 3.3, it does the quarter mile in 8.2 seconds, it hits 200 miles per hour in 10.5 seconds, and it will even cover 6,400 metres, which is 4 miles, in just under 1 minute. So it may not have the strongest of top-end performance, but it is still a seriously good all-round supercar, especially for slightly shorter distance drag races. I would recommend using this car for anywhere between 400 metres and, say, 3,000 metre drags. Anything beyond that, and it does start to lose effectiveness quite rapidly. But overall, it's a very, very nice car to drive, makes a very good drag car, and I guarantee if you use this car, and of course this tune, you will surprise some people. So, that's it for this drag spec build overall. If you're new to the channel, and you'd like to keep up with drag builds like this as soon as they come out, be sure to subscribe down below, and as always, thanks for watching.